Hello everybody, welcome to Live Scribbles with Jonathan. You can check out my website and my work at jonathanrector.com. And I'm just going to bring it on here. We're going to do a little bit of plugging in the beginning here. We haven't done this in a little while, so I thought I'd share it with you guys. So yeah, you can head over to my website, check out some of the stuff that I'm working on, things that I have worked on, a whole bunch of stuff up here. I did want to draw you guys' attention again to the store. I did just over the weekend, I had a really awesome local comic book convention. It's called the Syndicon. We have a local group of people that have a review show for comic books, and just it's like I call them personally. It's like the hub for comic book stuff. People genuinely interested in comic books. They're the guys and the girls that are like running the show, and it's a very small crew, but it's exciting. They're an additional, I guess, players in the game trying to get conventions started here in Windsor. And it was actually a Valentine's Day, so it was really cool. There's a lot of theming and stuff that we had going there. But I printed a whole bunch of fresh sketchbook reds. You guys can check it out here. Again, just head over to the site. It'll click you, or click anywhere you want there. It'll take you. I also, right here, I know it's a little harder to see, but for those that don't read it, you can go ahead and click here. It'll take you right to a video that I've put on YouTube. And I go through the entire book. You can see every single page in there. So if you don't feel like picking it up, that's cool. There's some art in there you might like. And if you're on the fence, maybe that video will show you some art in there that you might like and like to have. The other thing I wanted to show really quick as well is on Patreon. I've got it all finally wrapped up. Everything's all tight. Everything's ready to go. The only different thing now is going to be updates for the Jessup King webcomic, which we're going to be working on today and talking about. And I hope you guys are getting a little bit more excited. I know this seems like it's been going on forever, but that's the way it goes sometimes. It'd be nice to be able to just jump into something, but I've learned a lot about myself over the many years, and I hope you guys are the same. And we've all talked as we do this, and we're all growing and learning, and just coming to terms with some of the reasons why I haven't been able to start these projects, and finding other people to influence and inspire me to go in the direction I'm going, and that it feels comfortable and it feels right. So basically what we got right here, I won't bore your guys' time. You guys have seen this. Head on over here. There's a whole bunch of content up there. I'll just show real quickly. I guess this one I just posted today. Just like a quick example of some of the stuff I do. So for the $1 tier, I'm trying my hardest. Some weeks are really hard, but I've so far been pretty consistent with it. Is of about Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I just post a little sketch with here we got some process kind of going in there with a little blurb about it down there. It's downloadable PSD, so you guys can see the file settings we're using. And PSDs do open in Manga Studio, so don't fret on that end. So there is a question that we had in the chat, and I do want to address that. But before we get into that, and before we get into the drawing, the productivity video, I am working on it. I actually have some stuff recorded from last week that we did talk about it. But what I wanted to very, very quickly show you guys is just the 3 tools, besides a calendar, that I've been using lately that have been very exceptional in helping me feel clear on top of things. And I just hope you guys might be interested in this. And I know you're out there, and it's not necessarily like productivity to, oh, you're going to make it or anything like that. Or it's for me more so, I like to know how many plates I'm spinning and have that look on it. But there's always new information coming in all the time, and there's articles you'd like to read or things you'd want to check out that might not even be comic book related. And this isn't all just for your artwork. This is basically for your life. But one of the pieces of software that I use is, that I like to use it for anyway, is specifically for projects. Okay, so the first thing I'll show you guys have seen me use it a whole bunch of times, which is Todoist. There's a free version. Check it out, play around, get used to it. I have the premium version. I forget exactly why. There's some stuff that comes with it. We'll go into it later. I've showed you guys why this is awesome. To-do lists are great, but just having something like this, and I'll show you. If we were to go, let's say you went to my website today, right? But you don't have time to go here, or you want it as reference. You can have these really cool things. Right click, add to Todoist. And what it does is it just makes one of these, a little a ticket or a task. And what I like to use this for is, and I've talked to you guys about it, is David Allen's Getting Things Done. Highly recommend that. Tons of resources online, but that's the workflow I generally use for this, so that all I ever need to worry about is what's coming up. What am I doing today and tomorrow. And every Sunday or the end of whatever week you choose, whatever day, I just sit down, grab a cup of coffee. Sometimes it doesn't even last the cup of coffee. It's like 10 minutes, and I can just go through and plot out what's going to happen that day, sort of sort out the information I've been collecting over the week, like new webcomics to check out, podcasts to listen to. I throw out questions on Twitter all the time, like, please recommend me new manga to read and stuff. And you guys are awesome. You guys send me a whole bunch, and I just, boom, just throw it all here right into the inbox. And then I eventually get a chance to go through it all. And when I look at my bank account and I go, you know what, I'm going to buy some manga. I can go right to the list that you guys have recommended, and it's just that. Having that alone is huge. The next thing I'll show here is this the right one? Yeah. You guys may have heard of Evernote. We'll go into this later. I was always confused, all hell, what's Evernote? What is the point of this? It's very similar to Todoist, except you can save a whole bunch of things. And I won't get into it now, we'll get into it later, but I use this for reference, 100% reference. So whenever I start a brand new project, what I'll do is I'll make a new notebook, basically a new folder for that project. So let's say I'm making a new chapter for Jessup King. I will have a project called Jessup King. And in there, all the sketches I do when I go out, when I'm at home watching TV, spending some time with a girlfriend, and she's watching TV and I just like to sketch or something, or just once you get out of the shower, it's like, oh, that'd be cool if, write a little note or put it in here. And when it's time to work on the project, I can just come in here, get all the reference material I need because it's here and it's online. And what also you can do is you can get a link, like an actual URL link, and paste it in here. So when I go, oh, today, right here, create an image for jessupking.com, I can click on the Jessup King folder and it can take me there. And it's a lot of that stuff that just helps me stay in control of the stuff. And that's why I hope you guys get excited about this, because yeah, it's not art, it's not drawing, it's not arting, it's not all that how do you draw the head stuff. But I've got a massive, right here in this, I'll show you guys in a later video, but I've got a massive list of tutorials that I found online that are easily searchable. The very last thing I'll show you guys, and we'll get into some good stuff here, is a program or a website called Trello. Now, what's cool about this, and it's very small on my monitor, but I just want to show you kind of like what's on the inside, like what's going on here, So here I've got a little section called Cold Projects. These are things that people email me about. As you can see here, Modern Testament. If you guys remember, we did a cover for that gentleman. He's actually reached out a couple months ago, actually, asking if we're interested to do a second one, and I totally am. But the thing is, it's a cold project. I call it that anyway because I'm not working on it. I'd like to, but I'm not currently working on it. But what this does is this lets me see projects that are like hibernating. They might happen, or there's a lead to it. It might spark something. So the idea is once your hot projects, and those are things that are currently active, right? These are active projects going on. Once this starts going down, you can start going into your cold and start like emailing these people because you've kept up to date with when was the last time you talked to them, right? And you can just get in contact and pull on their ear and just ask them, hey, that project we talked about earlier, are we interested in going forward with that? The next sections we got here is for the month. What I'll do is, this is a cool thing I didn't show you guys, but you can just click on these little tickets, I call them, and you can just move them wherever you want, right? So I can go in here to the hot projects. These are things that are currently moving, and we'll say this was over here, right? So on Sunday, like I said, I'm going through my inboxes, getting everything cleared up. I can go, all right, so it's February. This has a due date of February 27th, and as you guys can see, there are Patreon giveaway sketches there. So I know by the end of this month, this guy for this month has to get moved into this week. At some point, you got to hack away at it, right? So we got for this week in progress. This one, this is a new card. I'm not really using it too much because I don't have all that time. I'm usually just working on one thing a day. And then done, I can move it in there so I can archive this stuff. And that's really it. That's really it. For a quick example here, if we click Jessup King, so you guys can see, I've got a checklist that's very easy to do. You just put them in here for things that I'd like what's the tasks, what's the to-do list to get that. So all I can do is just slowly start hacking away at those, and then I know by the end of the week, I can see here, right, I've got to the 20th to knock out 6 of these tasks. So I can see which ones are a little bit more priority, okay? So I know this might have sounded like a lot of all over the place and all that good stuff, but I just wanted to, again, show you guys in the beginning. Go check out those pieces of software yourself or those websites. Check them out. Fiddle around if you're interested. And look forward to the productivity video that I'll have wrapping all those up just to show you an example of how I integrate all that stuff, which I again, hope a lot of you guys dig. So what are we doing today? Whew. So much talking for 10 minutes. We've been working on this for about a month now. So I'm going to have a lot of head down trying to draw and finish this. Finish this inked anyway today. Color, who knows? But if you did notice on the list that we just looked at, I need an image for JessupKing.com. If you guys go there, it just goes to a placeholder website. I would like an image. And I figured, you know what? This would actually be a perfect image. This would be great. I can just put it here, and it's a holding place, right? So now we're getting double work out of what we're doing, which is great. So we're going to get in that. And again, this show's for you guys as well. So if you guys have any questions, I will do my best to help you out. Excuse me. Yeah, there's no branding, but there's no music anymore. YouTube's a little different. I've heard some bad things with copyright. So the one question was asked during the pre-show here. I just wanted to wait until we started to answer it by our good friend Daniel Burke. He was asking, John, any books you have planned for this year? And he's specifically referring to not like a sketchbook or a comic book. So yeah, thanks Dan. Thanks for popping in. So the outlook that I have for this year, you guys may have seen some of the projects that are there. I'd still like to slowly hack away at the, what's it called there? The Marvel portfolio and the DC portfolio. I've been listening to some things lately, and I've been seeing some things that have sort of been tickling my brain a little bit. So that's definitely still there, but it's not a massive priority. Whereas Jessup King, this itself, I definitely want this coming out. I'm aiming for March, and that's coming up very fast. This is going to make things a little harder to see. But yes, so March is what I'm aiming for to have the webcomic released. And I've been listening to somebody that I highly recommend, and I've been almost stalking him in a lot of ways. Jersey Droz, talked about him. Check out boulderandfleet.com. I am using him as a template because the success, even as small or as great, I don't know all of it, but when he talks and I hear what he's saying, there's a lot of what he's saying that I resonate with, and I'm like, yes, like an all ages story, not necessarily just for kids, but something that's something's good. And he's done a lot of hard work, sort of figuring out a lot of questions I've had. And you guys have heard me talk about, and I'm a big believer in role modeling, kind of basing what you're doing off of somebody else. That way you can grow, and a lot of the questions have already been asked by that person, and you can hear about their failures and successes and kind of go that way with it as well. So right now, primarily 100% web. I don't really care right now if it's for print. If I was somebody, I would enjoy it if it was in print. I'm going to format it so it can be done in mini comic, and modeling it as eventually getting to the point where I can also pitch this to publishers and maybe turn it into a graphic novel. I think Scholastic would be an awesome place to go. I know it's not a traditional comic book place, but there's a lot of people, Doug Tenaple, a lot of people that I've changed sort of who I look at, and just being very interested in what it is that they do. So I have no idea if that really answered your questions or not, but that's basically the goal right now. And there's a whole bunch of reasons for just doing web as opposed to just really worrying about print, Before I get to that, I just want to quickly show you guys what I did. Remember during the pre-show here, we were drawing this black liner and everything. I'm actually going to put this on Patreon as well, these actions. I'll show you guys how to put them in there so you can kind of see what's going on. But what it did is just make that black liner and everything, so I'm good to go. Like, I can go in here and I can start inking stuff, which we'll do right now. And it just makes it a little bit easier to get started, and it breaks it up. And I'll show this because I know you never know who's watching and when the last time was that they were able to check this stuff out. So if we have our sketch, you can see all the sketch back here, right? But if I move this, because I've made this, and this is talked about in the DC Comics Guide to Digitally Drawing Comics, I always want to bring it up, but I can move this guy anywhere I want now. And what this does is give us total editability. I don't even know if that's a word, but I can edit this image on the fly at any stage in any process, which is huge. At the day job that I work at, or my job, I need to really stop saying day job, but where I work, this is exactly right. This is the workflow. Everything needs to be edited, or can we get back in there and edit stuff? It's pretty important to be able to do that. It doesn't happen that often when doing comic book stuff, but being able to is huge. So we've got our lines. The lines are all set up. We're going to make another folder here. I'm just going to call this one inks. And this is where we get to have some fun. This is the part where we get to shut the brain off and just draw. I did buy those Friendin brushes as well, and I think we might try some. I know keeping it simple with just the ink would be great, but let's use some of the stuff we bought. That might be kind of cool. I'm trying to look at this dry brush, but I'm not. It looks nice, like it's a very nice brush, but the look of sort of what's going on, and I keep going back and forth. And if you guys remember, we talked about this before, of just thinking like, stop getting out of your head, stop looking at all the like. This is a problem. I'll tell you guys this right now, and I do this in Photoshop all the time. It's so easy to get like this many brushes, and then always being stuck with using any of them. When really all you need is like a single tool. And then as you go, you start to use these things for an effect, right? So in saying all that, we're just going to go ahead and stick with, for now anyway, the brush that we would normally ink everything with. Kind of like the sharp point that's on there. I think we were doing that with the last one. Let's go back to see what we were using. John Inky. What is this? Let me move this over here too so you guys can kind of see the whole image. I'll move that over once we start inking. If it's too thick, that'd be good. Let's use that. And I asked a question over on Twitter, and you guys feel free to let me know in the chat as well. How many people read webcomics? And I asked if it was, do people use? Oh, I did see one question there. I'll show you guys that. Somebody's asking about the grammar thing. I'll show you that. But yes, what the hell was I talking before I got to that? It was oh man, I killed my own mojo there. So this grammar thing that somebody brought up, what it is it's a plugin for Chrome called Grammarly. Grammarly, grammar, and then ly at the end. What it does is it adds this really cool thing where if we were to, I don't know if it'll show up here. Let me just try something. No, it won't show up there. What it does is as you type, you know how when your spelling errors are everywhere and you start getting like the red underlining that's there saying, hey, watch out, what you're doing right now is spelt wrong. It replaces, well, it doesn't replace that, but it adds that. It's like that, I should say. And what it does is, what's cool, and the whole reason of using it, or why I've been using it, is what it does next. And what it does next is really cool. It basically tells you, hey, you know what? There should be a comma here. One of the hugest things that I didn't even notice I was doing, and I'm not a big English guy at all, was like if I would write an email, like let's say, hey John, I would just type, hey John, but it's hey, comma, John. It's hey, John. Like that's the way it is, but the way we speak is just, you put it out. And the whole reason why, like, who cares, right? Let's be honest, who cares? It's the internet. Most people could care less about grammar. But if you're in art and you're talking to people, there is a little level of professionalism that actually pays off. I've gotten a few emails from people where it's like I call it bro talk, where it's just like it's as if I was talking to this person, and it's not. They're not taking themselves seriously. Like I find, and this is just a preference thing, right? But I find if I'm talking to somebody, or if I'm looking to hire somebody, or if somebody's hiring me, let's say somebody comes up to me and says, "Hey, I love your artwork. Would you be interested in drawing a comic?" And I'm like, "Hey, bro, sup?" And then I'm like, how are you doing? And I'm just using letter R and U. Like, it almost comes across as if they're that lazy to type, like, it's I don't want to say it's a disrespect thing. I think it's just a professional thing. It's a mature thing. That's all. And it could be just old school thought. But that's one reason why I have it, because like I do interact with people and I try my best to at least come across when I'm speaking in an understandable way. The other one is, and this one might be, it's just equally as important, but especially now that I've been doing Jessup King, well, I'm writing some stuff for like dialogue. I have an idea of what it is, right? But what I'll do is I'll just open up like a Google document, and I'll just type in the dialogue that's there. And what Grammarly will do is it'll go across and say, like, okay, well, this is wrong. This is supposed to be this. This is supposed to be that. Then I can copy that new edited text and paste it right in. And you know what I'm saying? Like, that alone is huge. I don't want to say it replaces an editor, because an editor is doing way more than that. But it is a very quick and effective band-aid editor, I'll call it, when it comes to speech. And that's why I think it's huge, especially because like we're all communicating stuff online, right? So I guess it's more of like a, how would you talk to somebody that you're meeting for the first time in real life. Not like if you guys met me or something at the grocery store or something, and you're like, oh hey, what's going on? Like, hey, what's up? That's different than if I was working at, let's say, Marvel, and I'm an editor, and you come up to me and I'm like, hey, you bring your portfolio to check out, and you're like, hey, what's up, bro? And you're throwing like hands out and stuff. It's like, whoa, you know what I'm saying? Like, we're not friends yet. Treat me as if I'm important, I guess, is sort of the thing. It's again, maybe it's again old school, just respect sort of thing. You guys let me know. Maybe I'm way out of line or something, but anyway, that was a really long way of saying Grammarly. Go check it out. Oh my god. Oh, here we go. Now everybody's that's so good. Hey, how are you all doing? You guys are awesome. All right, so let's get some ink going on here. You can see how sloppy we're getting. Trying to be pretty quick with this here. We will be slapping some color on there. So there's areas like, look in this ear. I can't zoom in anymore. I've shut it off. But the line I drew is like way out here, and then it kind of dips in. But when you're looking over here, right? Like, this is what it'll look like over here on this thumbnail version. That's what it'll look like on web. Maybe it'll look like this. Okay, and this is why it's important to and I talked about this during the pre-show. I'll quickly do it now. Right here, File, Preferences, go down to Canvas, Scale. Mess around with this so you can find out what resolution you're working on, and get like a comic book. Put it on your device or your screen if you're using like a tablet, and adjust the scale so that each one of these has a setting. So you're zoomed in to the actual print size, then you're zoomed in to an ink size, and that way you can't, like, look, I want to go in here and like fix this line because that's bugging the, excuse me, bugging the hell out of me. There's lines all in here that I'm like, I need to fix this. But no matter how, look at this. You can see the arrow changing because I'm trying to zoom in and it won't, right? But if I look over here, this is what it would look like printed. You can't see any of it. So that's sort of like the fail-safe. It's like, don't even worry about it. You can't see it. And it's cool. It's like this weird learning thing. It's like maybe it's the human thing where it's got to be perfect. I need straight lines. I need certain things like that, but I can't because it's not letting me, and it's frustrating. It's there. All right, so let's keep this going here. I think we're gonna do his hair. Lasso. I find it's easier to do his hair with this lasso tool than to use my brush all the time to do solid black inks. It still gives the look that we're looking for. So I've been trying to think of his hair. I was drawing quite a bit of Jessup King actually at the convention this weekend. I was trying to. I got stuck in a couple spots with them, and it was just weird things. Like, I've drawn this guy's face like a bajillion times, and it just gave this point right here at the top of his head. I'm like, I don't. What the hell's his hair doing? Like, I have the shape that I start with, like the construction of it. But as I was drawing it, I'm just like, I don't like, what am I doing? I don't see it anymore, and I just had to figure out. So like, is he combing it over, or is it all slicked back? So I ended up going with the slicked back look. And here I'm just adding a bunch of black around these little tufts of hair that flap up, just so that we can see them, because they were looking a little muddy before. And I wanted to be a little bit more relaxed here. Remember in this pose, he's just casually feeding some birds as he's sharing his little meal with them. And the first stage we're worrying about here is just line weights. As you can see, all I'm doing is adding black to everything. Just to thicken up the lines. I'm not even worrying about spot blacks yet. It's something that's one thing I am definitely trying to work on myself, art-wise as well. Is I'm stuck from an old teacher, the way that they taught me of, you, at least I don't know if he still does it like this or not, but it was one of those lessons that I learned, and once I learned it, I loved it. And every time I try to deviate from it, I start to kind of go back to it, like a little child, still going back to my mom. And that's just throwing down the spot blacks first, and then worrying about the line weights. Because once you do that, really, there's no point for the line weights because you can see where your line weights are getting covered in black. It just saves time, you know. But there's a comfort I have when I'm inking like this anyway. The convention was great. It was much better than their first one. I met a few people from the last time I was there. We did have. It's getting weird. There's a little bit of like an overlap, I think, here in Windsor. It's sort of like a tug of war. It feels a little bit like. There's a few conventions going on, and everybody's trying to get their own little flavor, their own little style in there, which is awesome. Because what that does is it opens the door for specific things, right? Not just convention. So we just had a Christmas convention, and I saw a lot of people from that convention here. And that might be where the overlap is that I'm talking about, where I just saw these people in basically the start of December and then now February. So it's only been about what, 4 months? So 6 months might be good. I don't know what it is. But the other side of it too is I had a lot of the same stuff at those two shows. And it's going to be kind of interesting because, like, once Jessup King starts going, I have to figure out a way that when I can still go to these conventions and stuff and get people to be interested to go check out a website after the show. It's one thing to get people interested, even to listen to you talk just as you meet them, you know, right out of the pale blue sky as you're walking past. Hey, please be interested in the thing I'm doing. That's tough. But then to somehow give them a reason to, once they go home to relax after they've just enjoyed a comic book show, to go onto a website, that's even harder. So I've been thinking of just doing a separate mini comic for that, like an 8-pager. Absolutely nothing more than that. That way I know I can get that done, and sort of use that as like marketing, you know, a little bit of guerrilla marketing in a way. What are you guys saying there? Oh, Sketchbook Pro, yeah. My niece, I downloaded that for her actually too. She's really enjoying that. I played around with it a little bit more since I've been able to use it on my phone, and it's good. I think it's very good. I see where you guys are going there with it's pretty much like the Photoshop Manga Studio debate, right? It's software, that's all. Some people like one thing over the other. I still really dig Photoshop. I know even like the brush settings and all that don't feel as natural, but I think the longer you work, or yeah, the longer you work in something, you sort of learn to feel it's what makes it natural. So you sort of learn like the nuances of the software, you know. And there's still things that I wish Manga Studio did that Photoshop does better. Good example would be, I know it has to be in here, I just haven't seen it. But I wanted to divide the image up in half. So I made a straight line like I would in Photoshop, and I tried to center that line in the document, and I could not find out how to do that. I'm sure a quick look online will fix that. Nobody wants to see me in spandex, but okay, what was that? I just want to see. Do you know how if you can do the small window thing in it? Oh, and sketchbook. Yeah, I wouldn't be able to help you out with that. It'd be nice to be able to do that for sure. I'm gonna zoom out there. We don't need to be that zoomed in. So you can see just quickly here. Let me turn the layers back off so you can see. Like, I'll just turn the inking layer off. Like, we've just added some black areas. We haven't even really gotten into that yet. And just line weight, generic line weight, and it just makes the character pop. It's very little work. Really, I mean, to be fair, I'm doing stuff that maybe people might not understand because they're still new to this stuff. But um, all I'm doing is drawing the underside of the line that's away from the light, and that's really it. I'm not thinking about it too much, so some of these lines might be, like, well, hey John, it's getting a little loose. That's okay. I'm not looking for perfection here. Sort of going with the imperfection, make it feel a little more real, I guess. Yeah, so at the convention, I was looking at some people's artwork and stuff, just taking a look around, and I started to notice something. And I don't know if that's just because I'm really gearing up to get this stuff launched and all that, but it's something I've talked about for the last few years anyway. Is like there's a lot of Marvel DC guys and girls, and there's a few of them. And I don't like just like the Marvel DC house style, but there's some artists that are just working today that are. There's a lot of artists really. They're just really phenomenal stuff. They just they make you feel in a way, like just like wow, that's cool to look at. I started to notice that like my interests, they're not leaving those big companies or anything, and it's not necessarily just people's independent work, like just unique stories that I'm just like, wow, that's really cool or that's amazing. It's just like I sort of guess like the style, the simple, maybe not, maybe that's a bad word, simple. Uh, just being able to break something down the way that they do, and it's like, oh, I never thought of using a line like that. Maybe that's what it is. Just seeing the way people use like a line or like the technical aspect, it's just, oh my gosh, like there's certain, and it's something I think only cartooning can do, where we can all study anatomy till we go blue in the face, and some people are gonna like studying anatomy more than other people. That's great, and it should be like that. It should be like that. But the more I start looking at stuff, is it's not really about the anatomy anymore. Like even though I draw these really gross, bulbous, anatomical people, there's something in just clarity. And my brother sent me something today that I was watching at lunch at work. And you guys may have heard of it. Basically, it's like backwards thinking to solve a problem. So let's say you want to make a web comic. Well, you start with the backwards thought. So the end goal of even doing the webcomic is I have a webcomic that I'm updating what? And you sort of figure out what you think that might be. Then you just start figuring out everything it takes to get up to that. And that basically gives you your goals. Like that's your outline of all the tasks or the things you need to do in order to get that webcomic going, right? What it also does is the next step you'd go from there is like add a time limit to that. So let's say you figure out a webcomic. Okay, got to come up with a story, got to come up with all this stuff, characters, all that good stuff. And you're like, I want to launch by December. Well, that means you've got this till December to get there. And what you can do is you can start breaking down all those tasks that we just figured out, and you're good. As long as you don't procrastinate. I mean, procrastination's, the killer of all this stuff, but and it works with anything that stuff. Just even doing that with like study time. How do I get better at drawing blank? Well, what's the goal? I want to draw better hands. Period. That's a wish, right? You need a goal. What's the goal? I want to draw better hands in my comics, in my illustration. I want to tell better comic book stories, not just stories. I want to tell better comics. So once you know that stuff, well, what's the goal? Well, if you want to draw hands, You want more expressive hands for your comics. All right. So we're going to have to start looking up anatomy. We're going to have to start looking up other artists, other things that you would normally do when you're studying this stuff. Um, but it can give you can give yourself a deadline. You can make it real, you know. By April, I want to have a sketchbook filled with hands. And every 4 months after that, I want a brand new sketchbook filled up with only hands. And if you really want to get nailed right down into it, so count how many pages are in that sketchbook, and that's how many you have to do a week. Or that's how many you have to do a month, and that's how many you have to do a week, and then that's how many you have to do a day. It's that easy. I mean, it's not that formulaic. I mean, there's some there's some love and stuff that goes into that, but it really is just breaking down your problems like that. I don't know. It for me anyway. It makes things feel like they're not always spinning out of control. Like you're trying to grab all this stuff. You know, like there's always something you wish you were better at, or there's something else you wish you could do, or be better at. Right? Um, but there's always a way that you can break something down into that. And to be fair, I mean, learning how to draw better hands, that might not be it's not a monumental task. It's just sticking to like a routine to get there. But I want to work for Marvel. I want to work for DC. These are things I hear all the friggin' time. I hear them probably more so than I hear things like I want to make my own stuff. So if you want to work for Marvel DC, there's things you can research, you know, definitely make time for research and that. But it's most likely getting in the faces of editors, right? You need a portfolio. What's in the portfolio? What editors do you go to? Where are they? Do I need to save up for planes? Is there any local? Can I try? Those are that's the backwards thinking, right? You know where you want to go and you work backwards, and then you just start nailing them out that way. I just want to scroll up here. I just want to make sure I'm not being rude with you guys. And again, it looks like we got some new people in the chat, so thank you for coming in today. By all means, please ask a question in the chat. If you need any help with anything, I'll do my best to help you. And again, this shows every Wednesday from 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and then we upload the recorded version if you missed it on YouTube here on the weekend. Okay, yeah. I don't want to like talk down about anybody or anything like that, or you know whatever. But you guys are bringing up Robert Marzullo. Yeah, definitely check out his artwork. He's got some wonderful tutorials on YouTube. Pillowhead's actually saying something that's it's very important, and I think a lot of people. I do it too from time to time. I think about it as well. Um, And he's saying, when I see someone draw better than me, I get discouraged. Like, what's the use when somebody better will get the job? And I mean, that's real. That's real talk. And I mean, you could study for the rest of your life and not get whatever that job is, right? But it really is. I'll be honest with you. It's a change in attitude. That's all it is. There's comparing. I found and I'll just what I'm gonna do here is I'm just gonna switch it back to me. Like I always do, selfish John. But hopefully you guys can get something out of what I'm saying. Either I'm talking total BS, cool, or whatever. But when I was younger, I was told that by a certain age is when the job shows up, and the job then was Marvel or DC. Those are really the only jobs that mattered. Independent work and stuff, no. I mean, you could do it, but why? When you could be like, and I like to call it a Marvel superstar. You know, I get to work on some of the biggest books, and people come up and they'll sign, and they'll be very genuinely excited. And it's not, you know, I'm not blaming anybody for that. It's a stardom thing, right? Like, it's gratification knowing that all that hard work that you're about to put in was not just deserved, but you earned it, right? There's that feeling of that. So what I would do is I would look at comic book stores like once a month. I would go there, and once I was told this, and I'll say this right now. And again, this is just mine. When I was told that poison, and I really want to say poison with that because it affected me personally for a very long time in a very negative way. And I don't want to pass blame on anybody. You got to live up to yourself, and you're the reason why certain things happen, and you're usually the reason why things continue to happen if you stay in that situation. And I'm not going to go into like, like the big stuff, the big world-shattering stuff, but we're talking just art right now, okay? So if you stay in this mindset of that poison, what that does is, every year that passed by that an editor I would see at a convention would say the same stuff, looks good. See you next year, keep doing what we said. And then going back and busting ass for like a year to see them again and get the same thing. And every year that would pass by, it's like, damn, like, now it's a year past the check-in date when I'm supposed to be there. I'm supposed to finally be able to quit my crummy jobs at the retail store and all that stuff and work at the factory so I can do drawing and comics and all this stuff. Like, what the hell's going on? And then days would pass and years. It would just happen. And eventually I just got beat up. It was just, why even go anymore? Because I already know what they're going to say. Because nothing's changed. It's been the same thing over and over again. All right, we'll see you next year. And now it's a different editor. So now they don't even remember me. I'm just a guy in a pile, right? A pile of other guys and girls trying to get the job. And why I say it's poison one more time, I just want to sink it in, at least for me, was what that did psychologically to me. They're really, I was told, like, I remember this one thing actually stuck with me, and in hindsight, it's like I don't even say this now. I never say this now. It's absolutely disrespectful. At least this is the thing too. The older we all get, we're gonna usually, I hope anyway. It's my belief to always be a student, not in necessarily school, but if something challenges your belief, most people, including myself, are like, screw you. You're not telling me different. I live the way this is day in, day out. That's my reality, right? But if you're always a student, if you're always looking to learn, when somebody comes up to you in anything and says this or that, you're wrong. If they say you're wrong, okay, why? And if they give you the why, at least have that second to go, I'm going to think about what you said. And that's all it takes. It's just to have that. I'm gonna hear what you say, and then I'm gonna be able to, through my own brain, think if that's BS or sort of look into it a little bit. Go, you know what? You might be right. You might be right. So what this person said back then, and this is, I don't know if it's still their belief or not, but it doesn't matter. It's in the moment, right? I was doing freelance work with somebody, and when I met this gentleman, he said, "Yeah, bring your stuff over. We'll do some artwork. It'll be great. I can." And I was just a sponge. Please show me anything. This person was already in the business, right? And everything they were showing me was just amazing. It was literally like, I've heard this analogy used before, but it was like meeting the Wizard of Oz. The curtain was pulled back. I remember once they had a check on their table, an uncashed check on their table from this company. I didn't look at the amount. I didn't want to pry or snoop or anything like that. I wasn't there for like the end game. I wasn't looking there for like, I just want to make whatever's on that check. That's just a personal thing for me. That's all. Because I had a job at the time of working at a gas station. So it wasn't like I was poor in the sense like I'm scrounging around for a meal, but I just wanted to wake up every day to draw. That was the goal, right? So anyway, I saw this check and it was like, that's what I'm saying. It was like everything, like the wizard was there. I could see what the wizard was saying. I could listen in on half of phone calls coming in while they were talking, and just seeing, oh, okay, I got to go to this post office to mail off finished pencils so that the inker can get them. All this stuff, right? And it was just like, wow, like this is it. All this indie stuff I'm doing at home, I don't do it like that. Maybe I should start doing that sort of stuff, right? And what's happening was that was just becoming the way. That's everything I had to do had to change to be what this gentleman was showing me, because he made it. And the role modeling thing that I talk about, I've been doing that for a very long time. Is I'm going to base everything I do off of this person because I would like to have what they have. So we're doing all this stuff, and the crux of what I'm trying to say here is, so I was doing these pages, and he said, bring your pages over, I'll take a look at them, I'll critique them. So I said, sure. I brought him over, and he made me redraw page after page, which is great. It's very brutal to just throw away something you worked 12 hours on, throw it away because it's not good enough. Do it again better. And that I think is still that is a good lesson. I think everybody should do that. It's that hard love, that tough love, you know. So do that, do that, do that, do that. And I remember one day he sat down, drew a panel for me, and I was like, wow, that's what that panel could look like. I never thought of putting a character in the foreground. Holy smokes, you know, like that's huge. That's massive. And it changed just how I saw how staging up a shot. It was great. So I sent it out to the person that was hiring me, you know, for this little freelance gig. And they got back to me and they didn't like it. They said, no, I don't like it. This looks too blank. This, and that. So I brought it over to the guy and I said, okay, so my editor got back to me and this is what they said. They didn't like it and all that. And he clearly, I don't want to say he got upset, but he didn't agree with them. And then he said, email them and let them know you're working with me. Let them know I work at a company. And I didn't think about it, but at the time it was really just like peacocking, right? You're the gorilla. Okay, so I'm here now, and everything I do or say is right. You know, it's a very snobby attitude, and that's real talk. That's coming from the heart. That kind of, you know, and that's what I'm saying. I would never say that to anybody now, just the way I've grown up and have seen things and how I am as a person, right? That does nothing. That doesn't accomplish anything. Saying you're better than, and I'm not saying you help every single person because some people don't deserve help because they don't take in help, right? But this was different. This was saying, how dare you critique what I'm saying? I'm giving you guys. You guys are getting my professional work really for free through this guy, you know. So then he told me, and so I wrote to them, and then they got back to me, and they said, oh, okay, well, I don't think we're going to be able to work together because there's like this an attitude here. And then they pulled out, and he was upset, man. He was so upset. You know, like good for them. Where do they think they were going to go? And this was the second thing that he said that stuck with me, and again, that poison lasted with me for quite a while, and that was the well, they're only doing indie work, and they're just upset that they're not good enough to get published work. Can you believe that? Can you believe that? What a horrible thing to say. So what that did to me meant, okay, don't even do indie stuff. Don't even bother with that stuff. It's not good enough. The companies, the big companies, they're the only ones that matter. So for the longest time, I would never make my own stuff. I'd always have my own sketches and doodles and things that I would do. I think we all do that because they're fun. There's a reason why you naturally draw your own stuff. Well, there's a reason why you're an artist, and there's a reason why. And this is again my belief. There's a huge difference between drawing because you need a paycheck and drawing from the heart. Some people are able to do both. I think, let's say Spider-Man. Some of us, well, a lot of us, really love Spider-Man. But he's not our Spider-Man, so no matter what we do, we're just on a run of Spider-Man. And what we hope is, yeah, it'd be awesome to be able to draw that. I'd love to draw the Hulk, for sure. But for me, it's like, waking up every day to draw the Hulk is, oh my gosh, that would be awesome. But the longevity of that is the years down the road, I'm still drawing because I love drawing. And people bring it up and they say, I really enjoyed what you did on this book. Can you sign it? That's different than just, I'm doing it for a paycheck. And you got to do what you got to do. Absolutely. Absolutely. Nobody's saying don't do these things. You got to eat. You got to save money. You got to family to support. You got to put kids through school. Dinner on the table. That's the real stuff, you know? But what that did to me was basically, in its own way, whether it was intended or not, it's just the way my immature brain took it, was don't even waste your time with your own work. Because in the end, it's really not worth it. You know, all the things you want in life. I'd like to be able to play video games when I'm done drawing and all that. Cool, man. Go work for the big companies, get the job, and then when you're done drawing, you're done drawing for the day, and you know, whatever. And in hindsight, like that's work. That's work, man. That's not even like, for me, that's not even enjoyable work. Yeah, the first X issues are going to be a bitch to draw of these characters until you get the hang of it, and you're getting on like Capullo size runs of Batman, right? You're like, man, and you enjoy it. There's things you love about that, but to know that at the end it's like I put in a hard days of work. It's not. I don't know. And this is probably just me. I don't know. And I'm not saying independent's better than anything. Comics are better than anything. Well, maybe not everything, but they're pretty big, a pretty big deal. Especially the amount of work you can do on your own uh, to tell a story. You can do the entire thing. It's so good. So I just wish that this isn't like a regret thing or anything like that. I've already buried those demons, but it was I would really enjoy more people be not worrying about I don't even want to try because when I look at other people, they're better than me. What's the point? That's such a I feel like at some point, and this is again even more real talk, is like I feel at some point somebody has told you something and you still hang on to that that makes you feel like, you know what? I can't. I could try drawing X hours a day. What is the point though? Like nothing I do in life works because I'm not good enough right now. That's honestly just that's the part that breaks my heart, right? Because I think you're looking at it the wrong way. It's look at your peers, get inspired by your peers. Try to get to the people that you enjoy. Like, I want to be that person, or I would love to have the success they have, or I'd love to be able to draw the way they do. Definitely have those, but don't ever let that prevent you from starting. Because, and this is where the selfish part comes in, because if you take that route, if you don't do something because somebody else is better than you, you're not giving me anything. You're not giving everybody else in this. And I'm not just trying to single anybody out in here. I'm just saying in general, in the world that might stumble upon your stuff. You never know who's looking and who might start drawing because you draw. You never know what it is you do that affects other people. And that's probably, if not the reason why I like to do what I do. Yeah, I get some personal gratification from drawing. Who doesn't? When things are clicking and working, you're like, yeah, I'm on top of it. But I'm telling you guys, like I have a very small following here on Facebook or on YouTube, online in general, and the few people that are able to talk to me because they believe it. Not that I'm not saying just start doing this, guys. I'm not asking for handouts. I'm just saying the people that naturally message me and just communicate or just talk because they've stumbled upon something that I'm doing by drawing and then hearing people say wonderful things like, you know, I used to draw but now I don't or I haven't in a long time and then I saw something you did and since like that's powerful stuff. That's love. That's you know what I mean? Like that's actually affecting people and that's something that I'll always hang on to. I might not ever work for Marvel or DC. I might not ever get Jessup King webcomic. I could die tomorrow, right? I could all these negative things could happen. But the one thing that'll always remain, even when I'm an old man, hopefully one day, petting cats and dogs at a fireplace and stuff, is like, yeah, okay, so nobody never really read any of my stuff or liked my stuff, but there were those people that, and you guys know who you are. I hang them on my wall. I've gotten mail from people that wrote with a pen on paper, saying very encouraging things, very loving things. And that's an experience that it doesn't even matter if I'm as good as this person or that. I'm getting something from somebody that was positively affected. That's huge. That's absolutely huge. And yeah, it might not be, it's not the accolade. It's not the thing on the wall that says, congratulations, here's my first check from Marvel on the wall saying, there you go, kid, you did it. It's not that. But in a lot of ways, it's better. So I'm getting real preachy on a soapbox here. Yeah, but I'm going to wrap that up with that. It just kind of tugs on my heartstrings a little bit when I hear people unfortunately say that you know I don't want to start because other people are better than me, and it's not true. Everybody's got a voice. Everybody's got a voice, and everybody's got a way of communicating that voice that's different than somebody else. So don't beat yourself up over it. Okay, so Pillhead, John, is he eating a bird? Eating after a bird spit on it? Oh, probably. I didn't even think about it. This is actually supposed to be his tongue. I know you can't see it. It's kind of like the hummingbird tongues, you know? Like I think their beak goes like this, and then it's like this long thing that licks it like that. That's what I was sort of thinking about with this guy. Spit. All right, so let's take a look here. We got our inks or our line weights pretty much done. So this is one of the things I don't know what I'm gonna do. Like if we're gonna have spot blacks in the comic or not. I know I want it to be colored. I like the art to breathe. You guys know me. Go back to channels, all sorts of stuff. I render and ink the shit out of stuff. It's fun, man, to do that stuff. I'm trying to think. Trying to think what are we doing here, and I want to be able to hammer this stuff out as somewhat quickly as possible. I'm gonna let the colors breathe. I think maybe doing some spot blacks where they should be, as opposed to just putting it everywhere like I used to do. No matter how cool that stuff looks or is fun to do, and all the rendering and all that stuff. Maybe we can just we'll try this. We're gonna make a brand new layer. I'm going to close this here. Oops, sorry guys. Close. There you go. Make a new layer. And we're just going to, just a little bit down here. I'm actually going to use my key tool to do this inking. So we got about like 5 minutes left, guys. So thank you so much for chiming in today. Really appreciate it. We got into some real stuff today, which is awesome. I don't get to talk like this with too many people that often, and it's good. You know, it gets a lot off your chest. A lot of I don't know. It's like the what's it called? It's the soul, and I'm not a religious guy at all. But there's something about the soul, the idea of it, that still applies. I think of just that there's something in there that just just feels good to talk about, like the shitty the shitty real side of like drawing, always asking questions. How do you draw better? How do you get this and that? That's always great stuff because there's always something to learn off somebody. But that just that visceral kind of talk is cool. So yeah, please jam the chat with any kind of questions. I'll do my best to answer it here in the last little minutes. VV spot blacks are something I have trouble with. Okay, very quickly I'll show you this. Definitely do this. I'm not going to do it now. I used to do this back in the day, and I've done it in a previous video. So I'm going to go ahead and make it red just because. We'll turn the opacity down. Is that going to work? Cool. All right, so what you're going to do, especially digital, if you're not digital, you can do this traditional. Just photocopy your image. It's a little bit of work, but it pays off. What you're going to do, if you can think about it, is you're drawing where the shadows are, but grab like a fat brush, so that you can't get detaily. You can't get stuck in drawing it. And what you're going to do is you're just going to put where you think the shadow should be, right? So, I don't know, where does the light come from? The top? Okay, so maybe all this is going to have some shadow. And this is really what I'm going to do once we get into the coloring, is I'm going to do this. I'm thinking of, instead of doing spot blacks with ink, I'm going to do it with the colors. It's really just thinking about where the shadows are and how drastic you want to go. And look how quick I'm going with this, because it's to get the idea across. Does it look good? Do I like the look of it? Because what I would normally do is either render these areas if I was doing this like in an older style, or whatever. But what this does right away is this shows me my forms and my shapes and all that good stuff, and I can go, yeah, it looks good, but I don't know. Maybe what if the light was coming from the left here? Right? So he's got like light or shadow coming this way, and this is really a good practice. If you got some time, I'd recommend doing this sort of stuff too. But you can see right away, right? So I'm getting some choices. And this is before I commit to anything. Right? So we got light coming this way, whatever. So I can go back and forth. Do I like that? Do I like that? I don't know. So let's say we went with that. We can lower the opacity big time. And now you can just grab a new brush and ink over top of that. You know where all your spot blacks are, and just kind of finesse it. And this is where the practice for individuals are going to come in. Some people like the big thick shadows. Some people like it, like real nice or rendered out, like Jim Lee's sort of stuff. But what this does is it shows you exactly where your stuff needs to go. Okay? So that'll help you out. Jordan's asking, any recommendations for learning head construction? I'm stuck with this stuff, guys. You can look at proper anatomy books. I don't know. Depends on the style you kind of like. It's nice to know. It's nice to look at the anatomy books to know how to break it. So looking at like an actual anatomy book of like a skull and all the bones that go in there, that's cool. I find for my own taste, I don't like reality when I do comic books. I like to break reality as much as I could, in a way that still looks like it could be real, but it's not. It's not Who Framed Roger Rabbit. It's not that far cartoony, right? And if that's the case, there's drastic things there. I would recommend George Bridgman figure drawing for all it's worth. I believe it's called. No, that's Loomis. There's a bunch of books, man. Loomis is a great method. George Bridgman has a very blocky way of making it. I would also check out tons of people online. Like just research head construction. Especially Pinterest is huge for tutorials. But look at a lot of way people do cartoons. You might find some very exceptional things on there. Like a good example is, let's say, like at my day job right now. Sorry, at work. What I do is there's a cartoon character we have for one of our games named Gem Boy, okay, and I had to learn a sort of cartoony style. Excuse me. And so like the Loomis method of drawing a head is very much like this. You start with a circle, right, and then you're finding where's this plane, like the middle plane, and then this plane here, and it's training you to see in 3D, right? And you're gonna get like a cross point. It's gonna come down here, but then there's another line that comes over here that you chop off, and what it's teaching you is how do you break this stuff up into 3D planes, right? And you can start putting your features and stuff on there. That's great. When I find this is amazing when you're doing stuff that are like close-up shots, being able to break things down. But for a majority of the things, like Jessup here, when we started this, let me here. I'll show you actually. Or maybe see. I don't think I went far enough. But this shape of the head, I would never do what we just did because it takes too long. And it might be the right thing to do, but it just takes too long, and it doesn't give me the like. This isn't. What am I going to start doing? Like adding actual bones in here to make it Jessup's bone? It doesn't matter. Like for me nowadays, it's a shape, right? So like Jessup's a blocky shape, and with shape like this. And I'm just scribbling. I'm just scribbling. What I'm trying to do is feel it, right? Like, what's the okay? So I can kind of see he's down here. Maybe he's got like, his chest is over here, and he's got this big tubey fat neck. But what this lets me do, and this could be the reasons why Loomis and stuff is good. I would recommend definitely checking it out, regardless. Even though I wouldn't necessarily study it in the long term, it's understand the principle of breaking a thing into a 3D shape. Because what that does is once I get to here, this object that I have no idea what it is, I can visualize it in my head of breaking it down into 3D shapes, right? So I can figure out where the cross is, where most people would, say it is. But then I can just gesture in. All right, here's a nose. His eyes are going to be up here. He's got the giant mustache because I know it follows the plane here. And then I can start constructing stuff. I can, make this shape right here for his chin, bring up a jaw that would go up here, right? And I know because I guess the study we did up there with the nose and the eyes and the ears are going to be over here, right? And this here gives us this side plane we were doing up here, right? And it's just a way of figuring it out. So I know that his skull has to fit back there. We can get his hair kind of coming up like that. Then we get these big fat tubey necks, right? So it's a very different way of constructing. But this right here, I'm just going to a bajillion check marks. This is where cartooning comes in because what it gives you is exactly what you're going to want in drawing. I'm assuming. If you want reality, you're going to go here and a lot of if let's just say you're drawing a comic and somebody's like, okay, President Obama's in this panel. You got two options. You're either doing this up here to make Obama look like Obama from a photograph you're going to find on Google, or you're going to look on Google and you're going to give him big ears or something, you know what I mean? Like you're going to cartoonify it up a bit. And that's where this sort of method down here, you're going to be able to play with that sort of stuff. And most often, I think this bottom one is usually what most people end up preferring to do, with just drawing. Is you do a little bit of studying of this to understand, and again, everything always comes down to understanding really just these primitive shapes, cylinders, squares, spheres, cones. It's really it. But it's not just drawing it; it's understanding that there's like a grid that goes on here. And that grid makes it easier for you to see how this bends in space. And really, that's it. That's art. Really, that's it. Just those. I mean, to make something believable, it's that. There's a whole bunch of other things, but I know that. Hopefully, that helped you out there. Um. Could I post your to read list for comics? Sure. Actually, here, I'll show you guys this. You guys will dig this. Okay. So I'm going to open up my browser here. We're going to go to Todoist. I'm going to show you just a very quick one because I want to plug the hell out of this. I can press Q as a hotkey, right? So I'm going to go make my to read list for artists on YouTube. I can also tag it. No, we're not going to do any of that stuff. So I don't need a deadline for that, right? And you see it's going to go in my inbox at task. And that was how fast that was. But now I'll never forget it because it's in here until I deal with it, until I move it down into photo or into YouTube content and stuff like that. Okay? So I just want to make sure I'm plugging that because I want you guys to try it out. I think you'll dig it. You're welcome, Vivi. Red Silver, do you still answer questions if people email you? I do my best to answer everybody that emails me. So by all means, please send me an email. And if you guys need that, it's Jonathan_A_rector@hotmail.com. Or go to my website. There's a whole bunch of ways to contact me. You need it on Twitter, Facebook, anything like that. All right, so with that, I guess we're going to wrap it up, you guys. I do appreciate your time, and I hope you guys had some fun tonight. I know we got some, thankfully, to be honest with you, some real talk. I think people get a lot out of that stuff when those real questions kind of come up. And so what we're going to do is next week, I'm not going to be working on this. This pinup's going to be done before then. Well, I'm hoping anyway, we'll be working on some pages. But I'm not 100% sure on that, but I would like to be able to be working on some pages with you guys. What I'm absolutely hoping with, you guys can look forward to it if you're interested, especially for those of you that are interested in making your own webcomic perhaps. And you guys can kind of live vicariously through me as we go through this. But I am hoping to have the page format already done, the script, which I'm going to be working on a bunch of this stuff by the time we do this, and have it all pretty much wrapped up. And I'll kind of go through the process of what I'm doing to get to where I'm at. And again, I'm really hoping to be working on some pages. So yeah, and like I said, March is really my deadline that I'm looking at to get this thing started. Because you know what the scary part is, and I think it's the same no matter what we do. It's starting. Right? And I don't want to go into a whole thing because this could be another hour. But starting is the hardest thing for all of us because starting means you have to commit to something, right? The idea is cool. I would like to. But once I click publish and I start doing a webcomic, I don't want it to fizzle out. You know, I want it to be done because of me. I don't want it to be done because of other things. And once I click play, it's like, well, now we need update schedules and we need all this stuff, right? That it becomes real. It becomes a commitment to everybody else that I'm sharing with people. And you don't want to break that trust. You want people to look forward to your stuff, not I hope something comes out or it'd be nice if something comes out. Those are horrible. I'd rather people be excited or at least interested that things are going to be coming out, right? So. Anyway, okay, what's that? So Vivi's saying Todoist is really helpful. I've been using it for school and personal projects, and good Lord, am I more awesome? That makes me very happy to hear that. Very happy to hear that. All right, you guys, I'm going to wrap this up. So again, thank you so much. Head on over to jonathanrector.com. You can check out my new sketchbook that's up there. I printed out a whole bunch of those, so they're now fully stocked, armed, locked, ready to roll in the store. You guys check that out. And please head on over to patreon.com. Check out, there might be some goodies on there you like. Doing some daily, 3 days a week sketches. I also have a tier for some small comic book making things as well. You guys can check that out. And if you are Patreon, thank you. Thank you so much. Every support that you guys are able to give me, all the way down to $1, all the way up to a thank you, thumbs up, a comment, anything like that, I really do appreciate it. Honestly, like I said, I hope you guys, if you're still here after all that rambling, even when I started talking about having that communication with you guys being very, it's almost in a way like food, and not in an addictive way, but in a, you know, you go home and you have like mashed potatoes and gravy. There's something, you know, they say that home food. It's that. It's sort of like the, all right, cool. There's other artists here and we're all kind of enjoying what we're doing. And that does mean a lot. That does mean a lot. So thank you guys. And I'll see you guys next week. And like usual, keep reading comics, keep making comics, and I'll talk to you all very soon. Good Good night.